There is a number inside your body right now. It is not the number on your birth certificate. It is not the number on your driver's license. And for most people watching this, that number is terrifyingly higher than they realize. You wake up exhausted. Your joints feel stiff before noon. You look in the mirror and think, when did that happen? And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet fear starts to whisper, am I aging faster than I should be? The answer, for millions of people living in 2026, is yes. And today, we are going to prove it, and then we are going to do something about it. Welcome back to VitaWave. I'm Dr. Elias Site, and if you're new here, I want you to understand what this channel stands for before we go any further. Health is not a destination. It's a rhythm you learn to ride. We don't just talk about symptoms here. We don't chase trends or sell you quick fixes with pretty packaging. What we do, what we are obsessively committed to, is decoding your biological waves to turn back the clock from the inside out. Because here's what most doctors won't tell you. Your birth year is largely irrelevant to how your body is actually aging. What matters, the only number that has ever truly mattered, is your biological age. And today, I'm going to show you exactly what that means, why yours is probably higher than it should be, and most importantly, what you can do to bring it back down. Stay with me all the way to the end of this video, because the protocol I'm sharing in the final section is the one I wish someone had handed me 15 years ago. The ghost in the mirror. Let me start with a question I want you to sit with for a moment. When you woke up this morning, honestly, setting aside what your birth certificate says, how old did your body feel? Not your mind, not your ambitions, your body. Because for a lot of people watching this, there's a gap, a painful, frustrating gap between the age they are and the age they feel. 40 years old feeling 55, 32 years old feeling 45. And that gap is not in your head. It is measurable, it is biological, and it is a warning signal your body is broadcasting right now. Here's what science calls this gap: biological age versus chronological age. Your chronological age is simple. It's the number of years since you were born. Nothing you do changes that number. But your biological age, that is the true measurement of how worn out your cells, your tissues, and your organs actually are. And unlike your birthday, this number can be changed. The research is unambiguous on this. A landmark study published in Nature Aging showed that individuals with a biological age just 5 years higher than their chronological age had significantly elevated risks of cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, and early mortality, regardless of how healthy they appeared on the outside. 5 years. That's the difference between thriving and quietly deteriorating. And in 2026, with the way most of us are living, that gap is widening at a rate that should genuinely alarm you. So the question we have to answer first is why? The invisible decay. Inside every one of your cells right now, there's a countdown clock. It's located at the tips of your chromosomes, tiny protective caps called telomeres. Every time your cells divide, which happens billions of times throughout your life, these caps get slightly shorter. Think of them like the plastic tips on a shoelace. When that protective layer wears away, the whole structure starts to unravel. Short telomeres are one of the most reliable markers of accelerated biological aging ever discovered. And the shocking finding from research conducted at Stanford and the Salk Institute is this: modern lifestyle factors are shredding those telomere caps at a rate our grandparents simply never experienced. But that's only part of the story. There's another phenomenon happening in your body right now that most people have never heard of. Scientists call them senescent cells, but I prefer the more honest name, zombie cells. These are cells that have stopped functioning properly. They've passed their expiration date. Under normal circumstances, your immune system would identify them and clear them out. But when your biological systems are under sustained pressure from poor sleep, chronic inflammation, environmental toxins, these zombie cells accumulate. They don't just die, they just sit there, secreting a toxic cocktail of inflammatory signals that damage the healthy cells around them. It's like leaving rotting produce in a refrigerator full of fresh food. Eventually, everything around it starts to spoil.
And the thing about this process that I find most troubling, you can't feel it happening in real time. You feel the result months and years later when your energy crashes, your cognition slows, and your body starts sending you signals you can no longer ignore. The third accelerant is the systemic inflammation, and unlike zombie cells or telomere shortening, this one you may actually already feel without knowing what it is. Low-grade chronic inflammation is the silent background noise of accelerated aging. It's not the sharp inflammation you feel when you sprain an ankle. It's quieter, persistent, and it operates like a slow-burning fire inside your tissues, corroding your arteries, clouding your brain, and accelerating the decay of virtually every major biological system you have. And what is fueling that fire? That's where we're going next. The modern age accelerants. I want to be very specific here because this section is where most health content gets vague and useless. I'm not going to tell you to eat better and sleep more. I'm going to tell you exactly what is attacking your biology in 2026, and I want you to recognize it in your own life. Accelerant number 1, the age toxins hidden in your food. Ultra-processed foods, which now make up over 60% of the average diet in developed nations, contain compounds called advanced glycation end products. AGEs, the acronym is fitting. AGEs form when proteins and fats in food are cooked or processed at high heat. They accumulate in your tissues, cross-link your collagen, stiffen your arteries, and accelerate the precise cellular aging processes we just discussed. A study from Columbia University's Vagelos College of Physicians found that high dietary age intake was directly correlated with accelerated epigenetic aging. You are not just eating food. In many cases, you are eating molecules that are chemically instructing your body to age faster. Accelerant number 2, the neurological cost of digital life. This one is harder to accept because it touches how most of us live every day. The human brain was never engineered for the kind of fragmented, high-stimulation information environment that exists in 2026. Constant notifications, rapid content cycling, the dopamine economy of social media platforms algorithmically optimized to keep you in a state of perpetual, unresolved anticipation. The physiological cost of this is real. Chronic cognitive overstimulation elevates cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone, and sustained high cortisol doesn't just make you anxious, it actively shortens telomeres.
It suppresses immune function. It promotes the very systemic inflammation we talked about in the last section. Your phone is not neutral. At the biological level, chronic overstimulation is an aging accelerant. Accelerant number 3, the molecular invaders you can't see. Microplastics. As of 2024, researchers have found microplastic particles in human blood, lung tissue, liver, kidney, and even breast milk. A groundbreaking study in 2024 in the New England Journal of Medicine found patients with microplastics in their arterial plaque had a significantly higher risk of heart attack and stroke. These particles don't just sit inertly in your body. They carry with them a class of chemicals called endocrine disruptors, compounds that mimic your hormones, throw off your metabolic signaling, and contribute to the kind of low-grade cellular chaos that reads at the epigenetic level as accelerated aging. This is not fear-mongering. This is the biology of 2026. And the reason I'm laying this out so plainly is because you cannot counter an enemy you haven't named. Quantifying your true age. Here's where things start to get genuinely exciting, because for the first time in human history, we have tools that can actually measure biological age with remarkable precision. Let me walk you through a few of them. The epigenetic clock. In the last decade, researchers like Dr. Steve Horvath at UCLA developed what are called methylation clocks, algorithms that analyzed chemical markers on your DNA called methyl groups. These markers shift predictably as you age, and the pattern of those shifts can reveal your true biological age down to within a year or two of accuracy.
Consumer-grade versions of this test are now available for a few $100s. Companies like True Diagnostic and Elysium Health offer mail-in kits that give you your biological age score, your pace of aging, and in some cases, which specific biological systems are aging most rapidly. This is actionable, real-world data that your doctor's standard blood panel is not giving you. Physical benchmarks that predict your future. But you don't need a lab test to get a rough read on where your biology stands. Science has given us some remarkably simple physical markers that correlate powerfully with longevity. Grip strength. A 2015 study in The Lancet following over 140,000 individuals across 17 countries found that grip strength was a stronger predictor of cardiovascular mortality than systolic blood pressure. If you can find a hand dynamometer, or even just pay attention to how your grip feels, you are getting biological signal. Single leg balance. A study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine in 2023 found that the inability to balance on one leg for 10 seconds in midlife was associated with an 84% increased risk of death from any cause within the next decade. 10 seconds, that's your test. Stand on one foot right now. See how you do. VO2 max, your cardiovascular fitness ceiling, is arguably the single strongest longevity predictor in the entire scientific literature. Higher VO2 max at every age correlates with lower biological age, lower disease risk, and meaningfully longer life. These aren't abstract numbers. They are your body speaking to you in plain language, if you know how to listen. And here's what I want you to understand about all of this data. The goal is not to terrify you. The goal is to give you leverage. Because once you know where your body actually stands, you know exactly where to apply force to change it. Which brings us to what you came here for. Rewinding the clock. Everything we've discussed up to this point was the diagnosis. This is the prescription, and I want to give this to you in 3 clear, science-backed pillars that you can begin applying this week. Pillar 1, clear the wreckage, targeted cellular renewal. Remember those zombie cells we talked about? The good news is your body already has a built-in mechanism for destroying them. It's called autophagy, literally self-eating. When triggered properly, your cells begin identifying and dismantling the damaged, dysfunctional components within them, clearing the biological wreckage and making way for regenerated, higher-functioning cellular material. The most powerful trigger for autophagy is time-restricted eating. Specifically, extending the window between your last meal at night and your first meal the next morning to at least 14 to 16 hours gives your body the metabolic space it needs to run this cleaning cycle. This is not a fad. The science behind this earned Dr. Yoshino Osumi the Nobel Prize in Physiology in 2016. When you stop giving your body a constant stream of food to process, it turns its attention inward, and it begins to clean house at the cellular level. Pair this with polyphenol-rich foods, dark berries, green tea, extra virgin olive oil, and cruciferous vegetables, which activate a protein called NRF2 that switches on your body's endogenous antioxidant and cellular repair systems. This is your first pillar. Clean the cellular environment. Pillar 2, trigger repair, movement and thermal stress. Your DNA has the ability to repair itself, but that repair machinery needs to be activated. And 2 of the most powerful activators we know of are specific forms of physical stress and temperature exposure. Zone 2 cardio, sustained conversational pace aerobic activity performed for 30 to 45 minutes, 3 to 4 times per week, has been shown to improve mitochondrial density, increase VO2 max, and directly activate a family of proteins called sirtuins, which are among the most important longevity-regulating molecules in human biology. Sirtuins essentially act as your body's internal maintenance crew. They monitor DNA integrity, coordinate repair, and regulate the inflammatory pathways we discussed earlier. Regular Zone 2 cardio keeps them switched on. Resistance training is equally non-negotiable. Muscle mass is one of the most powerful metabolic buffers against biological aging. A 2022 study in JAMA Network Open found that individuals who performed resistance training 2 or more times per week had a 20% lower risk of all-cause mortality. Muscle is not just aesthetic, it is your metabolic armor. On thermal stress, both sauna exposure and deliberate cold immersion have been shown to trigger heat shock proteins and cold shock proteins, respectively, molecular chaperones that actively repair misfolded proteins inside your cells. Misfolded proteins are a key driver of neurodegenerative aging. These temperature protocols, practiced regularly, essentially flush and renew that protein environment. Pillar 3. Reset the rhythm. Circadian synchronization. This is the one most people overlook, and in my clinical view, it may be the most foundational of all. Your body runs on a biological clock that is synchronized to light. Every cell in your body, not just your brain, has a circadian oscillator, a 24-hour rhythm that governs everything from cortisol secretion to immune function to DNA repair timing. When that rhythm is disrupted by late-night screen exposure, irregular sleep schedules, artificial light at the wrong times, or simply not getting morning sunlight, the downstream consequences ripple through every system in your body.
Your repair cycles don't run on schedule. Your metabolic processes fall out of sync, and your body's ability to maintain biological youth is fundamentally compromised. The protocol is simpler than most people expect. Get outside within 30 minutes of waking. Natural morning light, even on a cloudy day, delivers a specific spectrum of photons that anchors your circadian master clock with a precision no alarm or supplement can replicate. Eliminate artificial blue light exposure for 60 to 90 minutes before sleep. This is not about comfort. Blue light at night suppresses melatonin, which is not just a sleep hormone. It is one of the most powerful antioxidants and cellular repair signals in human biology. When you block its release with late-night screen time, you are directly interfering with your body's nightly restoration process. Protect your sleep architecture. 7 to 9 hours of uninterrupted sleep is not optional for biological youth. During deep sleep, specifically slow wave and REM phases, your brain activates the glymphatic system, flushing out the metabolic waste products that accumulate during the day. Your body runs critical hormonal programs: growth hormone secretion, testosterone restoration, cortisol reset. These programs require time, they require depth, and they cannot be hacked or compressed without biological consequence. Let me bring this full circle for you. Your birth year is a historical fact. It cannot be edited. But your biological age is a living document, and you hold the pen. The zombie cells accumulating in your tissues, you can clear them. The telomeres shortening under the pressure of modern life, you can slow that process, and in some studies even begin to reverse it. The circadian chaos, the cellular inflammation, the molecular burden of the environment you move through every day. There are real, evidence-grounded protocols that address every single one of those forces. This is the work of VitaWave, not to give you a pill and send you home, but to give you a framework, a set of biological tools that puts the control back in your hands. Because health is not a destination, it's a rhythm you learn to ride. And today, you just got a little better at riding it. If this video opened your eyes to something you hadn't considered before, share it with someone who needs to hear it. The people you care about are living with these same invisible pressures, and most of them have no idea. Subscribe to VitaWave if you haven't already, because next week we are going into something I've been researching for months, a topic that connects sleep quality, metabolic health, and longevity in a way that most practitioners are not yet talking about. You do not want to miss that one. Until then, keep riding your rhythm.